Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, December 1st, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. During today's plenary session, Prime Minister Rama accused the Democratic Party of blocking the negotiations with the European Union by blocking the vetting law. The Prime Minister declared that the opposition may delay the implementation of this law, but it cannot stop the vetting law or the judicial reform. According to the Prime Minister, the opposition will suffer the consequences of the delay in the upcoming parliamentary elections. You do not want the vetting, and this is clear, but the excuse that the version of the law was not well translated was beyond all predictions. You are not lost in translation, but rather lost in anxiety over the judicial reform. You cannot stop the judicial reform. You may delay it, but you will pay for the delay in the coming elections. What you are doing is completely anti-national. You are doing this because you are afraid, obstructing the implementation of a reform that the Albanians have been waiting 25 years for by blocking the negotiations is an anti-national act, the Prime Minister told the opposition members. But to the former Prime Minister, Sali Berisha, integration cannot happen with Edi Rama. Berisha believes that the Prime Minister violates the conditions needed to open negotiations. Failure to open negotiations is dramatic. Albania has had the opportunity to progress in the last 3 years, but Edi Rama's irresponsibility did not allow it. The main cause for the negotiations not having begun already is the breaking of consensus. The German Chancellor made clear that the internal politics, so consensus, is a condition for the negotiations. Another reason is crime. The EU countries are concerned about the drug situation in Albania. Integration cannot happen with Edi Rama. He is only lying to Albanians about his imaginary successes, declared the former Prime Minister. Opposition and majority members debated in today's plenary session over the budget the government has prepared for the coming year. Democrat MP and former Minister of Finance, Ridvan Bode, accused the government and the Prime Minister of not thinking of the citizens. He claims that increasing salaries and pensions is a trivial matter that is being made for electoral purposes. The former Minister of Finance declared that in the last 3 years, the Albanian people have paid $2 billion in taxes and that the gross domestic product has reached $2.45 billion. Mr. Bode also commented on the formerly persecuted, accusing the government of abandoning them. According to the former Minister of Finance, the unemployment level is higher than it was 3 years ago when the government came into power. The current Minister of Finance, however, considers the opposition's accusations to be unfounded and declared that the government stepped into a bankrupted budget. We found a bankrupted state in 2013. We found public debt at 70.4%. There was $726 million in hidden debts, $200 million in unpaid obligations, and €150 million in losses for the energy system, declared the minister, adding that the new budget is a budget showing major reforms for Albania. The Minister of Finance highlighted that citizens are the focus of this budget, and with an increase of expenditures, especially for salaries and pensions. The 2017 draft budget will be 436.4 billion lek, marking a slight increase compared to the budget of 2016. The budget includes the predicted increase of salaries at 6 billion lek, while the amount for the pension increases will be 2.9 billion lek. December 1st marks World AIDS Day. The Albanian authorities report that approximately 1,000 Albanians are infected with the HIV virus, but according to the authorities, this number is even higher as there are around 400 people who have not registered in a hospital to receive treatment. The Vice Minister of Health admitted to a temporary absence of alternative medicines, but gave assurance that this phase was already finished and that patients were continuing with their treatment normally. Meanwhile, the director of the Association of People Infected with HIV and AIDS raised her concern about prejudgment from the Albanian community. The United Nations organization representative declared that infected people delaying to register in hospitals is a problem as their condition may have advanced. Sensitizing activities were organized throughout Albania on World AIDS Day. The Ministry of Agriculture has announced the nodular dermatitis vaccination for cattle will start tomorrow. The Minister of Agriculture stated that 900 cattle have died so far and that once the disease is under control, farmers will be compensated as soon as possible. The minister also announced the vaccination will be free of charge. First, we will identify and register any unregistered cattle. Vaccines will be free of charge for all farmers. Cattle will be vaccinated based on some rigorous criteria along with the regular documentations, and all the farmers will sign. In this way, we will record the full process, said the minister. He also asked the farmers to be prudent with curing their cattle that have already been infected by the disease and rejected the recent claims that meat from the dead infected cattle had been sold for preparing sausages. 900 cattle have died since the disease first appeared. The Ministry of Agriculture has asked the government for additional funding from the 2017 fund or from the Emergencies Fund in order to compensate farmers for their dead cattle, concluded the Minister of Agriculture. The Ministry of Environment is preparing a package of amendments for the criminal code relating to environmental crime. The Minister of Environment declared today that there has been a legal vacuum in the criminal code since 1995, which makes penalizing violators very difficult. During the annual meeting with representatives of local governments, the minister criticized the mayors for not being completely committed and for not seeing the forest sector as a priority. There are shortcomings in the criminal code over environmental issues. We are working to change the laws for protected areas. A new law on reclassifying protected areas will be soon presented in Parliament. The vacuum in the criminal code makes penalization difficult. The last 10 years has seen 14% less forested areas in Albania. A forestation moratorium is necessary considering the situation. The mayors need to see the forest sector as a priority. The mayors must respect the law, declared the Minister of Agriculture. Also present at the meeting was Bernd Borchardt, the head of the OSCE presence in Albania, who asked that the environmental crimes amendments be applied in 2017. According to Mr. Borchardt, environmental pollution is damaging Albania's economy. The package of environmental crime amendments will consider environmental damage or pollution of marine waters as a criminal offense with possible imprisonment time of 5 to 15 years. The high unemployment level is a problem also for government institutions. During a meeting with young people, the Minister of Social Welfare declared that the unemployment rate is concerning, that the market is not properly oriented, and that still more work is needed to regulate the labor market in the country. The minister also declared that a regional youth office will open this month in Tirana, which aims to motivate the youth to use the office to work with their projects. The Minister of Social Welfare announced that the Youth Regional Office will open on December 8th, the International Youth Day. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.